Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, today, before we begin and get into this spicy tier list, although I don't think it's that spicy, it's mostly pretty predictable, but I have a few special announcements to make. First things first, we are finally partnered on Twitch. This is honestly a big achievement for me because I started streaming on Twitch actually back in last September because I wanted to kind of make it okay, show people that it's okay to start being a YouTube content creator for Vanguard, not necessarily with just YouTube. Like, you can use other things and platforms as well, like Twitch, and so that's why I started streaming on there. And now that it got big, like, there's a lot of people also streaming on Twitch, and some people don't even touch YouTube, for example, and they can start their kind of like content creator careers just from Twitch, and I think that's really, really amazing. And the other thing is that, I mean, I obviously wanted to have like an additional platform to interact with you guys on, and so I'm really happy that it grew to this point. But now that it's, you know, that now that I got partnered, like, this opens up a lot of different opportunities, you know, whether it's, you know, being featured on the front page or things like that, you know, for Vanguard, just for the game's growth as a whole. That's really, really huge and really, really important to me. So I'm honestly super happy about that, and like I cannot express how happy I am about that fact that we finally got that. However, of course, when it comes to being partnered on Twitch, you also get more emote slots, and of course I wanted to give you guys more of an incentive and more of a reason to actually stay subscribed for those of you that are. So let's maybe switch to this camera to show you those emotes. So I decided to, of course, commission two of my favorite artists when it comes to fan art for Vanguard, and these are Zweite and Scarlette. So I'm going to have both of their Twitters in the description as well as the pinned comment. Please do check them out. Scarlette right now does not have commissions open at the time of making this video, but Zweite does. But so I'm going to reveal some of the amazing emotes that they made so that you guys, you know, if you've already subscribed on Twitch, you'll know that you guys have these that you can use in my streams. And of course, if you were on the fence about it, then maybe this will push you over. But so from Scarlette, we have this amazing hollow check one, which is a Night Rose one. Then we have a Arara Ara Ara with Lukier. We have a Pouting Gabriel one as well. We have a Luard Pepe hands as well, which I know a lot of people like that one a lot. And then there's still more that are gonna be on the way. But from Zweite, we also got a Outplayed Daikaiser emote, which also has an animated version on my Discord that anyone can use, as well as, you guessed it, a Chariot emote. So Chariot, of course, is something you guys have been all asking for, and so I'm finally here to provide it. So once again, the last two are from Zweite. You can check him out on Twitter, as well as the remaining ones were from Scarlette, so check her out as well. But honestly, I'm really excited about having these. You know, I think all these emotes are really, really cool, and there's more amazing ones on the way as well outside of just these ones, so I think it's going to be really exciting to, you know, have everything to look at together. But now, the one last thing before we head on, I know I'm kind of teasing you guys a lot about this, but if you are subscribed on Twitch, or if you're a channel member on my YouTube, then if you are on my Discord, make sure to sync your YouTube or your Twitch together with Discord, and if you do, you will have exclusive access to the Twitch subscriber and YouTube channel member only text channel in my Discord as well, where you can, you know, have a better chance to interact, you know, with other fellow Twitch subs, YouTube channel members, and of course myself as well, because I will be kind of giving extra attention to that channel as well, because that's going to be exclusively for you guys that have put in the extra support for this channel. So I was really excited because I can only do this once I'm partnered on Twitch, so I'm really happy to be able to provide that as well. But now, God, that intro was very, very long, but it's finally time to do what we came here to do, of course, which is to look at the tier list. And so here we are with our wonderful set 3 0 meta tier list. Of course, this is for English, and so this is not going to be, we're going to do a separate one for Japanese that I'm going to go into a lot of discussion about and like show some of the other tier lists that exist on Japanese websites as well for the game right now. Sadly, for English, there isn't really a website right now that does tier lists, and that's why I thought that I would take it upon myself, because you guys were also asking for it. So I've put the decks that, in my opinion, are at the time of making this viable at the very least, and so you won't see, like, for example, this waterfall is like good stuff Kagero, which I'll explain, but I didn't put like blockade separately, like, you know, if you just happen to focus on blockade, or like I didn't put, let's say, the other variants of Bermuda on, because I kind of think they all more or less fuse into one, aside from maybe reindeer, but that's, you know, discussion for another time. So I basically put the, in my opinion, viable decks in that you can use in ladder. If you disagree with me, feel free to add others of your own, but this is just what I've decided on. So we're going to basically go through these and put them in tier 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course, this is subjective. This is my opinion from my experience playing ranked, and also majorly based on my experience playing ranked of this season back in Japanese. So this would have been in February back in Japan. well, in the Japanese server, and so that's what this is mostly based on, because I played a lot. I mean, every season in the Japanese server I basically play a fair bit, so I know basically how every single meta looks like. So yeah, we're gonna get into it and take a look. So we're gonna go into the order of, you know, how things are here. And so Waterfall, aka Good Stuff Kagero, to me, this is a tier 1 deck. So how Good Stuff Kagero looks like, there was actually a deck list from the Vanguard Zero Championship. If you didn't see the finals, check them out, it's really amazing. But from the the playoff tournament before the qualifiers, there was somebody that actually topped with Good Stuff Kagero. So I'll put up a deck list right now, and it's basically just using like Overlord, Waterfall, Blockade, like to kind of just have really strong cards that can make big numbers, can take out your opponent's pieces, you know, and can give you more resources and things like that, and just kind of win based off like simply tempo and having better cards than your opponent. That's really what Good Stuff is all about. So I think this is a tier 1 deck. If it's the best, I don't think so, but I think it is one of, but not the best. That's kind of the point here. So then we have Tsukiyomi. I think also definitely goes in tier 1. Tsukiyomi stays good for a very long time. In the Vanguard Zero Championship, in the Japanese format, which is, you know, on set 6, so 3 sets ahead of this, Tsukiyomi was still in like 4 out of top 8 players lineups of 3 different decks. So Tsukiyomi is still seen as one of the strongest decks, simply because you have the stacking power that other decks just don't have. You're able to manipulate your own deck, you're able to track when your triggers will come and play accordingly rather than, you know, kind of hoping that something good happens. And because of that, you can also time them with cards like Silent Tom. And when you do that, of course, it's going to be good. So I'm actually going to zoom in on here a little bit more because I feel like it's a bit too zoomed out. So we have a better sight. There we go. I think that's better. So I think Tsukiyomi still is going to be tier 1, and she's going to stay at the top for quite some time. Eventually, she will drop down here, but she'll still be used a lot. And keep in mind that, in my opinion, the top, like, tier 1 is like the best decks, but tier 2 is stuff that you can still take into ladder and expect to do well. And for the record, ladder means to ranked. So I think that, like, Tsukiyomi is still is right now one of the best decks, and so I would put her in this kind of order. And then Perfect Risers, I'm pretty vocal about this. I think Perfect Riser and Risers as an archetype is the best deck right now, simply because you're able to secure, you know, permanent crit, big numbers, you have free advantage through Trance Riser, you have like on hits that you can abuse like Kirara with countercharge and things like that. I think the deck is very potent. It also sees a lot of use in ladder in Japan still, and I mean, I showed in my own video for Perfect Riser that the deck can still win in the Japanese meta, and so it really is super strong. And I think right now and for quite some time, if you invested in, honestly, especially in Tsukiyomi and Risers, if you built these decks, they'll be good for a long time. You don't even need to worry about building new decks for a while if you don't want to. But of course, if you want to build MLB, then I'm not going to stop you. So then, moving on, we're going to continue looking at it in order. Garmor, this one is where things get a bit difficult because I don't think it's tier 1, but I think it is strong. I think Garmor is strong because Garmor also can use things like Agane, it can use things like, you know, Alfred itself, you know, as like a backup right target. And Garmor's strength is that when there's no strong control in the meta, it does well. Because the reason why Garmor couldn't shine in Japan is because Amber was let loose, so it was not, you know, it was before the nerf, it's back when it could retire too on hit, so it didn't struggle to just take out your opponent's entire board. They couldn't even set up the snow goals anymore, they just existed for one turn and then it's gone. You can't even abuse Garmor's mechanic anymore, or, you know, even use his skill properly anymore. So Garmor excels at times when there's little to no retire. And of course there is retire because there's Good Stuff Kagero, but there's not that many people playing it. So even though I say that this is one of the better decks, that doesn't necessarily mean that people are playing it, you know? So that's kind of like how that works. And it's important to keep that in mind as we're talking about this, because whether a deck is good or not, you know, it's one thing. But then if people are actually playing the good decks, that's a different thing. So I think a lot of people are playing this, and some people are playing this, but, you know, it's hard to say how much. Then, so Garmor, I think, stays in tier 2, but a strong tier 2 because it has good just field power, it produces units well, it gets advantage pretty well, it has more intercepts than the other decks, therefore it can outlast other decks better, but it is susceptible to retire because of that, and its mechanic can kind of like run out a little bit. And of course its numbers are good too because of Garmor's skill and snow goals and blue goals and stuff like that. Galahad goes in the same bracket for me. Galahad right now is pretty good because it has, again, the same mechanic as Tsukiyomi, where you essentially have the ability to stack your deck. The problem is that in OTT with Tsukiyomi, you don't run cards that shuffle your deck, so that stack stays there. But here, if you want to run like Akane, or Pongal, you can't. The only reason why you would is to maybe run like a couple Pongals or something, is to shuffle your deck if your stack sucks. So if you've really seen like your key cards go down to your stack and you think you're not going to last long enough in a certain matchup, you quickly shuffle that deck and then restart the stack with your remaining like 2 Galahads or something. But this deck is nice, but the thing is that it makes a stack, but it doesn't get to it fast enough. Tsukiyomi can get to that fast super quick because it has grade 1s and 2s and 3s that can all help you draw through your deck and get to that stack faster. It has, you know, its own skill that draws through the deck faster. You have cards that look at the top card and puts it to the top or bottom. You know, you have so many different tools to get to that stack that Galahad does not. So Galahad has to rely on that crit that it gets, which is also good. A lot of people have found success with Galahad because, especially in the season that it comes out, Galahad does a lot of good things. Like, it's really, really strong in my opinion. It's just that it also has very easy counterplay. You just don't give your opponent a second face-up damage and boom. Like they can use their skill once, and then you put them to 3, and then if you're playing something that has inherent crit, like Perfect Riser, they don't get to use their second Galahad until they're out of PGs and then they lose. So that's one of the problems. So against certain matchups, it's great. Against others, not so much. So I think this will slip down as we go. Next, Bermudas. So I would be putting Pacifica, kind of like Reindeers, or like Pacifica and like Revere around here. I'm not sure where necessarily it goes. It's still pretty good. I think it's pretty good on release because you get to just do random bounce combos, but I think, I don't know, it's either at the top of tier 3 or at the bottom of tier 2. That's kind of where I'm putting it. It's lacking a certain something. It has draw power, but then its numbers don't do as much. It struggles to really hit over like 18,000 without triggers. And I mean, of course, quite a few of these decks do, but, you know, for example, Tsukiyomi can secure that she will hit thanks to triggers. This deck will hit because of Waterfall, because of Overlord, you know, things like that. This deck, I mean, I don't even say anything. It hits numbers, you know, like easy. But then, you know, Garmor too. So all these decks you can see, like this kind of hits numbers, but all these decks you can make numbers, can get over those defensive. So if your opponent, you attack them once, they chuck a defensive, they go up to like 20k or 21k. Like these decks, the other 5 can still go beyond that. But Pacifica or just Bermuda struggles with that unless you use Revere. And Revere is good and all, but that, you know, you need a Persona Blast in there and it needs to hit, so then the power up is like, you know, at least you can kind of choose if you want to use it or not, but then usually you're hitting rear and things like that. It's a bit awkward. I just think it's a bit awkward, so I would put it at the bottom of tier 2, but Bermuda has a lot of potential, as we know. I mean, from Bermuda releases throughout the years, Bermuda gets very, very, very good eventually, but it just takes a bit of time. Amber's post-nerf, I think, go in a similar pile. They're not dead. Like, Amber's people, the thing is that I think in the English community, the feel that I get is that a lot of people think that just because Ambers are nerfed, they're already bad. And actually, after Ambers got nerfed in Japanese, so many people still use them. Because we actually, the way that it worked in Japanese is that Ambers came out in January. And then they were, you know, full power in all of January. And then February came through, and we got set 3. And then Ambers were post-nerf. And so then all the Kagero players didn't have the end yet. And some people didn't catch on to good stuff Kagero yet, so they just played Ambers. And Ambers did pretty well. Like, they still, just that one pop is still nice because it's essentially a battle phase Berserk Dragon, which isn't bad. So, and also just being able to consistently search out your pieces and like your grade 3 of choice, having the grade 0 that pops out, you know, having a searchable grade 2, things like that, made this deck pretty alright. So I think Ambers are not tier 3, I think they're still pretty relevant, just because they also have the strong pieces that Kagero has, you know, the counter charges, the Berserks, Conro, not so much, not this deck. This deck has Conro, that's what helps. But Ambers are still good. Like, from my perspective as a Japanese player, Ambers stayed good, at least for this set 3. Set 4, gone because the end comes in, but set 3, still fine. Blouse are, in my opinion, the peak of tier 2, if I can, there we go. Blouse are like the best tier 2 deck, I would say, because they're not broken, because they rely on 2 things. A, you consistently having cards in hand to discard, and while also producing a field, because you need to hit your opponent's intercepts, you know, and stuff like that. And if your opponent has like 12k rear guards, 11k rear guards, you need to have your own, and if you don't, then you gotta boost them, so you gotta commit more cards to hand, so then you don't have enough cards to discard, so you gotta run 9 draws. And on top of that, it's very much like, with Toolkit Boy, it is very much the kind of thing where it's like, they need to, like, hit and then restand and then check a trigger to like, get over their stuff. And like, if you want to do the like infinite restand, you know, which is just not really infinite, it's like 4 at most really, you basically need to keep checking triggers, and that's very luck reliant. But when the deck pops off, it pops off, and it doesn't need to do much to pop off. You literally just need to ride, swing, swing, swing. You know, it doesn't take much. I personally find the deck really fun. When I was in set 2, set 3 in Japanese, I mostly... Let's see, in set 2 I started with this a lot, and then I didn't get the pieces to build this even though I really wanted to, and then I moved to this because it was really fun, and then I realized it's really strong. So, Blouse I think are like the peak of tier 2 here. Imperial Daughter, I personally really don't like this deck, because I think that it's, I mean it's not bad, I'm just shuffling it here, you know, we can put it wherever, but I think this deck is not fun to play, not fun to play against, but people like it. I think it goes around here. So this is of course in order. And the reason why is because right now, like I said, not a lot of decks can make 21. And Imperial Daughter is 21 on your opponent's turn if you don't have any rear guards. So what Imperial Daughter does is, plays down 2 front rows, and then attacks with the front rows. Next turn you have to kill their front rows because they have intercept, and then she becomes 21. And if your deck can't hit 21, it don't do much. So you just kind of stall, and they deck you out. And so it's very long, very annoying, but in this meta, in this set, not many decks can hit 21, and because of that, Imperial Daughter still lives. As soon as we get to next set, gone. Like, don't craft Imperial Daughters for the sake of playing this deck if you think it's gonna last. It's not. It's gone the next set. Like, the end is literally 21 with a bar, like, you know, just on its own. MLB hits 21 easily. You know, what else do we have? It's like Shadows hit 21 easily. Like, so many decks hit 21 easily. It's not even funny. So for now, Imperial Daughter is around here, but it will drop. It will drop a lot. Some of these decks they will kind of stay around here, but others they will drop. Dark Irregulars is a really strange position actually, because they have things that should make them kind of good, but then they somehow fall short because they have Retire, 2 different kinds of Retire, 3 different kinds of Retire actually, with the grade 1 that also pops units, and so they have different kinds of Retire, and they have consistent power. They can break 21. You know, they don't have a restander, but you know they don't need to if they have these retires, but it feels like it's a little bit overcosted at times, and it feels like sometimes it just falls short, but then it has potential. It has potential, so I'm not sure. We might even need to reshuffle this. Specifically, I might be going down to tier 3 for me. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure where I would want to put Bermudas. It's like at the bottom of tier 2 or at the top of tier 3, somewhere around there. For now, I'll put it here. I might still rebalance this at the end. But I think, I don't know, it's legit is how I would put it. So it's kind of hard to say. I think for now, I don't know. It's really, like, both of these decks are in a very similar pile, but like, it's weird because in the Japanese server, I ran into Dark Regulars even before Rage came out. I ran into Dark Regulars all the time. Every single season, without fail, there would be Dark Regulars players because the deck can do things, but in like it, you know, NLK can be a random win con. Adel Rose is a consistent searcher, and the heal that goes back like Gancelot. You know, Doreen builds power. Like Gwyn the Ripper retires. Like, it has so many tools, but it just feels like something's missing. I don't know. Maybe DI players can help me out on this. Next, Enigman Storm. I'm not putting Dayusha here as a separate deck because I think the only viable one is Enigman Storm right now. I think Enigman Storm is around here. So not really showing too much bias. You can criticize me for that, of course, but I think that Enigman right now is like if Risers is the alpha, this is the beta in a way. I don't know, it's because like they have consistent crit, but they have to work harder for it. But then the trade-off is that they have a restander with Commander Laurel. And the nice thing is that you can get 4 attacks out, which Risers don't. So you can, I mean, you can get 4 attacks out if you're on stands, basically, and like, you know, things like that. But generally, you're going to be doing just 2, but then like heavy hitting ones and things like that. So like Enigmans feel strong, but not stronger than Blouse, but stronger than all the other decks in tier 2, I think, because the inherent crit is like something that can control your opponent's resources, control what they want to do. It doesn't let Tsukiyomi draw. It doesn't let Kagero use Berserk. It doesn't let Blouse restand, you know, things like that. So any deck with inherent crit is usually good, and on top of that, it can break 21. So Imperial Daughter just sneezes at it, you know, doesn't do anything. So I think Enigman Storm, just Enigman as a whole, as a deck, does actually perform pretty well. And I think that, you know, it will sadly drop down over time, and then hopefully Great Dacia is coming out next month in Japanese. will come back to life soon. But that's just how I feel. Pale Moon is around here, I guess? Something like that. I guess I gotta reshuffle this. The columns are getting full and Spikes is really good. So I'm gonna put... Sorry, Kagero. I want to put more in tier 2. I really feel like tier 2 is the viable decks, and all of these decks are pretty viable. And so, Pale Moon, why it's in tier 2 and in this spot, the main reason why is because essentially the deck can build columns. Golden Beast Tamer is literally a numbers maker, and you can swing with her at rear, and then your rear guards hit their Vanguard for like 21 easily, you know, or 21 with Crimson Beast Tamers and things like that. And Alice's restanding combos, you know, but it does rely on Purple Trapezist pretty heavily. But you can soul charge that. It gets better when Lukier comes out because it's a consistent soul charge. You can search it. But for now, with Golden Beast Tamer, it is very much like random soul charging, not selective, which is a bit of a shame, but it's still really strong. And so I think that the deck is pretty okay for now, but the problem is that it's so piece reliant that decks like Risers, Tsukiyomi even, like every deck that's above here, even Galahad honestly, I would put even Galahad over it. All of these decks can kill it faster. Like all of these decks, like if you don't draw into your pieces early, you're just dead. Like you literally barely did anything, you like struggled to like push numbers, you know, push a few damage, and all of these decks have just like completely whooped you, you know? And because you don't have it here in crit, so you're not like denying them resources actively or anything, and you have to do damage if you want to win, because if you don't do damage, you don't get to your win con. So it's like you have to like have them at 4 and then like use an Alice, get like 3 attacks out, you know, after that to the Vanguard. So yeah, it's really difficult for Pale Moon. Like at first when it came out in Japanese, I was like, oh, this deck is pretty good. You know, I feel like it's like top meta contender. But then after playing, I was like, oh man, it's just like not being able to selectively soul charge and having to like just soul charge all your specific pieces, like draw into Alice's and things like that, just really felt like it set the deck back. And so when we get Dancing Princess in set 6, bueno. Feels good, but until then, sadly, not that hot. And finally, Spikes just came out. Oh my god, I realized I forgot Grand Blue. Let's fix that. Okay, the day has been saved by the Powerpuff Girls. So let me reorganize this because I want to leave Spikes for last. So for me, this has fallen. I think Grand Blue, set 1 and 2, like, I mean, it came out in Japanese in set 2 meta, but then especially in set 1 when it came out in English, I thought it was pretty fine. Simply because, I mean, you could kind of stall with Nightstorm and felt pretty good. But the problem with the deck is that it doesn't really have a proper finisher, and it gets something a bit better in Limit Break, but it's still like, if it got that at the start of Limit Break, it feels like it maybe could have performed, but now it got it way too late in the Japanese server, and it feels like Grand Blue is still at the bottom, and it's really unfortunate. But I sadly put Grand Blue at the very end. It doesn't do much. Baskirk is not a solid enough finisher. You use your resources too much to even use Baskirk as a whole, and just stalling and making infinite intercepts. I mean, there's a deck right up here that does the stalling game a bit better. So yeah. Final deck, of course, Zyfried. Zyfried. Now this I think surpasses everything in tier 2. Honestly, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for it. Put Zyfried in tier 1 because I think Zyfried is the one, like, Spikes are the one deck that can, like, when they came out in Japanese, people already were like, this deck feels strong. Because Skydiver is like a counterblast less Alice, basically, that just calls something from hand. And the thing is that when Alice calls something out from Soul, it doesn't get power. But when something comes out of Skydiver, like a Braki or a Juggernaut Maximum if possible, it's hitting for 16. Pretty great, right? And the thing is that you can also like still put trigger power on it, like all those things. The deck just has amazing synergy as a whole. That has like the booster that can restand, like all those things. Again, for Spikes, I will recommend Living Proof, and also Crisome. I'll leave links to both of their videos in the description. You can check out their stuff on Spikes, and you'll understand why Spikes right now are actually, in my opinion, one of the top meta contenders. So I think that this is kind of what the meta looks like. Essentially just, I still think that Perfect Riser is the best deck, simply because of how fast it can set up and how fast it can just finish games. Good Stuff Kagero is going to be great because it can work around everything that it's thrown, that whatever you throw at it, it has kind of like an answer, and Blockade will always be a good win con. Even now in the end, people run Blockade just because it's like, oh, your opponent thought they were comfortable sitting on 2 intercepts, Blockade, goodbye. You know, I'm sure you guys saw my tournament games. And so Good Stuff Kagero will be good. Tsukiyomi just has like it creates a stack and it can draw into it, and it's like consistent stacking, and Silent Tom is a big win con. This just like creates so many attacks per turn. You know, it really does create so many attacks per turn. You get through your intercepts, your opponent's intercepts easily, and then you can still bash face plenty of times and just adapt to like if they get defensive triggers or not. Then blows are just like, you know, restand, smash face. You know, literally turn cards sideways the deck, but it's fun. That's the important thing. This is like a light version of Risers with a restand, and therefore it's still good because it can beat a lot of things. This is good because it has power, it has more intercepts than other decks, and you know, you can always count like how many grade 2s your opponent has, you know, has already milled or lost, because you know, they only have 13 maximum, but Garmor will always have 4 more, and that's the important thing. Or actually more than that, but anyway. Galahad is good because it's like, if Enigman is Riser's Light, then this is an even lighter version of that. It's like, this is like 3DS, this is the DSi, and this is the DS Lite. You know, that's how we see it. Pale Moon, good, but feels a bit slow, feels a bit too piece reliant right now, and therefore doesn't win out as easily. And then, of course, Imperial Daughter can stall, but loses a lot of power later on. Ambers are still consistent, retire, and you know, like steady game plan. Dark Regulars feel like they're a bit too much all over the place right now and need more of a streamlined game plan. Bermuda falls into the same batch more or less, and also, in my opinion, kind of has the same problem as Grand Blue of lacking like a really good finisher, because you can't just bank on Reindeer, and you still want to use your Counterblast, so Pacifica isn't that great either. And then on top of that, like, I don't know, Riviere is also pretty situational. So for those reasons, I put them like that. And then of course, Grand Blue here is just, you know, stalls but lacks a finisher, so it goes to the end. So yeah, that's my tier list for this set 3 in Vanguard Zero. We'll be doing this again next set because I want to be able to refer to this when I stream, when people ask me what the best decks are. So I think that with this video I can kind of tell. Of course, this is my opinion, this is from my experience playing the game. You need to tell me yours as well. If you have different opinions, if you don't agree with something, if you think things should be placed differently, if you think Ambers are still tier 1, you know, feel free to talk about it in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts as well, what you think is this metagame. But from my personal experience, from my personal playing, you know, of this game for all these months, this is what I've kind of concluded. So yeah, that's basically it. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the Twitch subs and the YouTube channel memberships. I finally have something to give you guys back, and of course thank you for letting me become partnered on Twitch as well. So on that note, that's gonna be it for me today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.